Welcome to the top custom Hearthstone cards of the week. If you were waiting for this video yesterday, I'm sorry it's a day late, but going forward, I will be uploading these on Mondays, just as it works out a little bit better with my schedule. But I have a lot of really cool cards this week, so let's get right into it. The first card this week is Footlong. It is a 4-mana priest spell that says restore 12 health. After you take a bite, halve the card's cost and healing, and it has 3 bites left. So this is obviously a play on the new drink cards in the Perils of Paradise expansion, where it's a spell that you get multiple uses out of, but the difference with this version is the cost and the effect get reduced every time. So the first time it's a 4-mana restore 12, second time it's a 2-mana restore 6, and then the last bite it'll be a 1-mana restore 3. I have to say it's a really cool take on the drink mechanic, you know, being food instead of a drink that you're taking bites out of instead of sips of. I think it's a really cool idea. It's very thematic, you know, foot-long sandwich that, you know, you're slowly eating over time. And it's just a fun card. You know, I don't really think this is necessarily a good card, but the theme and the flavor and the fun aspect is just off the charts. So kudos. Not necessarily a card I could see being played, but a very, very cool idea nonetheless. And for the second card this week, we have Victory Rune. It is a 1-mana dual class mage and rogue spell that says if this is the 20th time you've cast this card this game, destroy the enemy hero. And I have a couple things to say right off the bat. You know, first, for anyone who's new to the channel, I absolutely adore alternate win conditions. So cards like this are right up my alley. I love effects like this, but I will say I don't really think the balance is all there. I think 20 times is just way too much. You know, at that point, you could win the game so many other ways. To play this one card 20 times would just dedicate too many resources and too many turns. I think it's just too slow. And it is a cool effect, but I would reduce it to maybe 10 times, something of that nature. But as I said, I absolutely love effects like this. I like winning the game through unconventional means. You know, I think it really encourages interesting deck building, things like this. You know, things like Mechathune or even like Wheel of Death, they typically encourage very unique deck building, which I think is good for the game. You know, I think there should be other ways to win the game that require very different deck building and play patterns. And this is a perfect example of it. It's just, like I said, I think 20 is just too much. It's too slow and clunky, but I don't know if 10 would be too strong. But let me know in the comments. If this card was changed to 10 times, do you think it would be okay? Do you think it'd be bad? What do you think about alternate win conditions? Let me know. For the third card this week, I have another really interesting mechanic. It is Challenge the Champion. It's a 5-mana warrior spell that says give your hero +3 attack until the start of your next turn. And this is a really unique and interesting effect because outside of a couple circumstances, it's not possible to have attack on your opponent's turn. And I think that's a really underutilized mechanic. I think the idea of giving yourself attack on your opponent's turn to try and deter them from attacking is a really unique idea, and it's not something that's really been utilized, as I mentioned. You know, the only example that kind of comes to me at the top of my head is if you've played Odin as a warrior and your opponent plays Armor Vendor on their turn, because it gives you the 4 armor, it'll actually give you 4 attack on your turn. So if you've seen this in action, you know, people usually attack into you and get very confused when their minions take damage on their turn. But it's a neat effect, and it seems very on theme with warrior. So this is a card I really could see existing at some point. It just seems like there's such an opportunity there. Or maybe, you know, like a weapon that stays open on your opponent's turn, something like that effect. And I'm sure there's probably so many combos and synergies that would go with a card like this. And I really hope something like this comes out at some point. And next up, another warrior card. This is Titan's Grip. It is a 5-mana legendary spell that says replace your hero power with a second weapon slot, and the next weapon you equip costs 1. And again, this is a super unique effect. You know, the idea of replacing your hero power with a second weapon. And thematically, it makes sense. You know, I'm pretty sure in World of Warcraft, there is a skill path for the warriors that enables you to dual wield, you know, like 2-handed weapons. So it's very on theme for warrior already. And it doesn't seem broken or anything, right? You're essentially losing your hero power for the rest of the game, because I would imagine that even if you don't have a second weapon equipped, or once that second weapon breaks, I would imagine you don't get your hero power back. So what you're doing essentially is removing the ability to gain armor through your hero power, but to balance it out, you're able to go more offensive by equipping a second weapon. And like the last card, there's probably so many cool combos and effects you could pull off with something like this. And again, thematically, it makes sense, right? Like this effect exists in Warcraft, so maybe it's only a matter of time before you see a card like this. And for the last card this week, we have Flame Dancer Aranna. It is a 1-mana 1/1 legendary Demon Hunter minion with Forge. Slide this to the right side of your hand and reduce the cost of each passed card by 1. And we're continuing the theme of very unique mechanics with this video, and I think this is like the all-star of this video. This is such a unique and cool effect, and I feel like it makes sense for Demon Hunter as well. You know, Demon Hunter has a history of discounting cards and cheating things out a little bit. And also this has a bit of a play on the Outcast mechanic. So super, super cool. And also there's a couple ways you can play this as well, right? You could play it in the early game to get a discount on just a couple cards, or you can save it for a late game play to maybe discount a whole hand of cards. I just feel like this is such a unique effect that I could see in the game. I think being able to trigger it on demand with Forge is super neat. It thematically fits in with what Demon Hunter does. On one hand, it's such a simple card, but on the other, it is kind of deep as well. But that'll be all the cards for this week. I really think this had some of the most interesting cards I've seen since I started this series. So let me know in the comments, what was your favorite card this week? And if you enjoyed the video, give it a like, and I'll see you next week.